So, yeah, the Oscar nominations. Crazy times we're living in right now. Hi, guys. This is Jack, and today we're going to be talking about the post Oscar nominations analysis. I'm going to be talking about just like the Best Picture category and what is at stake right now, the general consensus of the race, and just like a lot of stuff that's happening on the internets, because I kind of want to like talk about like some of the discourse that's brewing between a couple movies, especially one that is very controversial. But I actually just kind of want to like go into those details, but not like super deep, because I don't want to like bear a lot of like runtime with this video, because I just want to like rush it out and just make my points. So yeah, let's just like get into like the nitty gritty of this current race right now. So I'm trying to kind of like figure out what I want to like discuss first before, I get really like deep into the Best Picture nominations. But I think I should like talk about the Emilia Perez discourse right now, because a lot of it has been toxic lately, especially like on the internets.
Like, why? It's just like lasering in on like a person that you probably don't like. Immediately, it feels like this is just more so about shitting on Selena Gomez. Okay, like why everything about Hollywood turns into this?
And I'm only like referring to the internet, because real life, it's kind of just been like muted because a lot of people haven't seen it like on Netflix. So I want to like go super deep into like why I think the discourse is starting to get really toxic and just completely like out of control, to the point where I think a lot of people are just losing the plot of why they are getting mad at this film. So I want to like kind of lay out some of the grievances with the film. I did actually go super deep into why I think it will be like an Oscar villain on my channel. I did a video like a couple months ago before the intense backlash rapidly went up, but I'm not going to go, super crazy into why I think it's an Oscar villain right now, because I already did it a couple months ago. But just to reiterate, I think this film is divisive mainly because of its portrayal of trans issues, how Mexico is not entirely fully run by cartels. There's more to like Mexico City. And then just like on top of that, like the inconsistency of the Spanish language, especially with the three actresses in the movie who are speaking Spanish, but like they have different accents and are living in different like aspects of the Spanish dialect and language. All those like three criticisms that I've been hearing over and over again on the internet are true and valid. And I understand, all those criticisms in mind. However, I do think some of the other criticisms behind the movie, just mainly because of, people just assuming that the movie is bad to a fault, to a point where, you're just seeing that one out of context video of, the song Penis to Vagina. Like, the song, you already know it.
Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operation.
I see. Men to woman, or woman to men.
Man to woman.
From penis to vagina.
But just leaving that song out of context pretty much perpetuates a lot of the troubles of media literacy in the cinema landscape. And I'm trying to like kind of put everything together in a really kind of neat criticism or analysis, because right now, media literacy is just completely all over the place, to the point where nobody is understanding the main themes and plots of movies. And I think Emilia Perez, despite it being scattershot with a lot of themes going from like one place to the other, I do think it does lay some sort of catharsis and also explanation of why Emilia Perez, the character, is going through all these like troubles, especially since she wants to become a new person. And of course, when she transitions, her old self creeps back up, because that's how she was before. And it makes sense, because you can't change the past. That's the general, theme of the film. But I think where it kind of like lands on, it depends on the audience and how they take it. And for me, what I took from the movie is that this movie is just completely fantasy. It's like a dream. It's a fairy tale, a dark fairy tale about the cartel and how they trap a lot of these people into these like closed communities and they can't escape. And Emilia Perez, who is privileged enough to escape from this cartel land and become who she's supposed to be, it lays that like theme down thick. And of course, again, it's a fantasy. There's extravagant like dance numbers. There's moments where the characters are singing like it's a dialogue, like they're singing like dialogue, literally, just like an opera. Operas are like basically, sing-song musicals told with a lot of theatrics and orchestration, I should say. But I think, again, Emilia Perez, the whole idea of her character being kind of like this gray moral person, her journey ends right where she starts, and it makes sense. So again, just like going back to just the general like toxic discussions behind this movie, I understand all the criticisms in mind. You should be reading a lot of the criticisms from trans people from Mexico, pretty much everybody from Spanish-speaking languages and places. But I do think, again, the movie, it is a bold swing, and it might not work for some people. But for me, it worked for the most part. I still have problems with it kind of like speed running a lot of themes, especially when it transitions from one thing to the next with Emilia Perez turning into like an activist. I thought that came out of nowhere, but I still really liked her journey, especially towards the end of the film. It, again, makes sense. But I think going back to just the overall toxicity of the film, I want to kind of lay exactly what I'm trying to say. Hold up. I think the hate towards this film is mostly coming from dogpiling and just a lot of people who want to like join in on the fun of hating a movie that they haven't seen. And let me just say this. Internet's going to be internets, especially since the internet just likes to, provoke and put a persona behind the screen. I don't think a lot of people have thoroughly watched this movie. I think people just want to like join in on the fun with making fun of this movie. And to those who have not seen the movie and are kind of like in that space of just like hating the movie out of spite, your opinion is invalid and it should be revoked, because the point of just criticizing a movie should be, number one, you should watch the movie from the get-go in full, in context of just everything that you haven't read or have read. And then once you finish the movie, then you can, criticize it. But if you're someone who's just like joining on the fun with like the negativity behind this film and you haven't seen the movie, then yeah, your opinion is like invalid. Full stop. As for the rest of just the toxicity behind this movie, I've never seen like a hate campaign behind this movie like in forever. Like I kind of saw a little bit of it with, Green Book. There was some moments, I think, back in 2022 when Everything Everywhere All at Once was coming out. There was some, kind of like lukewarm reception to it. And then once the Oscar season started, there was some small backlash. But it's mostly coming from people who were kind of like rooting for Cate Blanchett to win Best Actress for Tar that season instead of Michelle Yeoh. And there was some like racist kind of backlash vibes that were like happening between discussion boards. But at the end of the day, it didn't go completely too chaotic. This year, it's just been like fucking like chaotic. A lot of just people like accusing things that aren't like there in the movie. And then just in general, just the whole vibe behind like discussing this movie. Like if you like discuss this movie and you have like a slight positive like opinion about it, you're going to get like fucking nuked on these discussion boards. Like a lot of people are going to like push you and like try to like provoke you and make you go on the other side. And like for me personally, I'm not like that person where I'm just like, okay, this person's just kind of like giving me like negative vibes. I don't want to like provoke and cause a scene, but I rather just be like respectful and kind of like listen to like other people's opinions behind each set of movie that you encounter in your life. But this year, I think Emilia Perez, like the whole just negative backlash and like campaign behind it is just, it's out of control, and it should stop. Like I think we should just like stick to like the actual plot of like why people are not like enjoying this movie, and it's just like the idea of it being not too representative of the trans community and the Mexican community, and just the overall theme of just portraying Mexico City as like this nasty, disgusting like city filled with like cartels and gangs and violence. It's not that. But again, this is a movie that is just a fantasy. It's a musical. Musicals are fantasy. They're, streamlined with, reality. But again, it's just, this whole discourse has just been completely toxic. And I don't want to like be a part of a discussion where it just starts to get like really like violent, not like to a fault where, people are like coming after you physically, but just like online with people just like calling you names and trying to like provoke you to become more angrier about the film. I'm not going to do that. I think this movie is just fine. When I saw it at TIFF back in September, I was lukewarm about it, mainly because, again, it was just the idea of like the film kind of speed running a lot of like themes. But I came out liking the film because I enjoyed some of the songs. I like Mi Camino. I like El Mal. I like Papa. I like those songs. I still rotate those songs on Spotify. But I think once the film started to gain traction with, the Golden Globes, it winning, and then it getting 13 nominations, that's when like the negative backlash started to like skyrocket. But I actually just want to like talk about now more of the path that like Emilia Perez has right now, because it can go either way. There's multiple paths behind this movie, and even more paths behind other movies that I will mention as like the top 5 consensus films to win Best Picture. But again, I do think like you should continue listening and reading up on some of the discussions behind Emilia Perez, especially from like the trans community, Spanish community, Mexicans as a whole. But just remember, don't try to like cause a scene or like make something that's not there. Just use your own head, use your own like critical thinking skills, and like actually lay out like the reason why you don't like this movie. Don't go saying like the same typical stuff that I've been seeing a lot with it, being just, like I don't understand the Spanish, which, yeah, that's a positive and like a plus for a lot of international people who don't speak the language. It's just like, okay, it's whatever. Like the Spanish it's not like bothering me. But then yet again, you should also listen to the people who are bothered by it. You should also not try to like, again, provoke a discussion to a point where it gets very heated. It's just, I don't know, this season has been kind of messy. There's other stuff that's happening. There's like a lot of hit pieces. 2 of the actresses who were nominated this year were a part of films that had blackface in them. One had a blackface on a television show. The other one was in a movie. Then there's like the Mikey Madison intimacy coordinator controversy that happened a couple weeks ago. There's just like the Adrian Brody like bringing back his like past with like the kissing incident from like the Oscars when he won for The Pianist, and like the SNL skit where he was like a Jamaican and he had like a really bad Jamaican accent. Just a lot of like crazy like pullbacks or like flashbacks to like a time where it was like acceptable to like do that. Now, nowadays it's not. But I think this season's just been like really messy, and I hope everybody just like stays together, stays with like the plot of like a lot of the films that are coming out and like the discussions. I don't want to like cause a scene or like be hostile. I don't want like any shooters, but yeah, it's just like bothering. It's like really bothering me. But let's just actually get past the general discourse behind, these movies. And let's focus more on like the state of the race and like what's going on with some of these films and like what paths are going to be like taken with some of these films. So let's do that. Okay, so state of the race. This is what I'm looking at right now. So Emilia Perez has 13 nominations. It can go either way. It could go, the Parasite sweep, where Emilia Perez takes the SAGs, maybe takes like some BAFTA wins, and then it does what it needs to be done with supporting actress, maybe screenplay, maybe director if it's having a really good night. Of course, it'll get an international feature, and then Best Picture. Parasite won the SAG award in the middle of the 1917 race back in 2019 when, of course, we thought 1917 was going to take it. But once it did win the SAGs, a lot of people flipped. I flipped too. I remember I was just like, I don't know. I think 1917 is still going to win. But I think what really flipped it was that SAG win and the anonymous ballots that were distributed across the trades. When I started to read those, I got a general vibe of what people were thinking when they were getting into the voting booth. I don't know if it will work out this year with Emilia Perez because the love behind the movie industry-wise is already wide and mainstream, and it's fully seen. There's a lot of videos of people from the industry who really likes this movie, loves it, calls it their favorite movie of the year, 2024. Even go to say that it might be one of their favorite movies that they've seen.
I want to see Emilia Perez, but the clips, holy shit. Have you seen it? It's so bad.
Wait, what? Oh my God, where am I?
Wait, did you see it?
My favorite movie of the year.
Hell yeah.
So you got to take that into account. However, I do think Emilia Perez has the typical race line that I can see from a mile away. And I think it can either just go it winning supporting actress, international film, and that's it. It just stops from there. Oh, and also El Mal. Those three: best song, supporting actress, international film, and then that's it. That's another kind of path that it can take. Now, the other path that it can also take is just a full sweep, meaning it can pretty much take most of the technicals. I don't know which technicals it can take, maybe cinematography, editing, makeup. But again, if it does take those technicals, especially makeup, if it takes makeup, there could be a solid chance that Carla Sofia Garcon takes the award because of the correlation between makeup and the acting category. Now, that trend stopped. Actually, it didn't stop because it's been going on for the past 3 years with 3 people. So Jessica Chastain for Tammy Faye. It was Brendan Fraser for The Whale, and then Emma Stone for Poor Things. So if Carla Garcon takes the actress award along with makeup, then she has a win and also a solid chance for Emilia Perez to win Best Picture. There's also other formulas that you can take. It can leave out, the best actress, but you can just swap it for best director for Jacques Audiard, and then it will win Best Picture. But there's another formula that you can take. It could either just, win supporting actress, international feature, maybe screenplay, and then picture. That could happen. Or it could just go back to what exactly I said, which is right now, which is supporting actress, international feature, and then best song. There's a lot of formulas that you can plug in with Emilia Perez. But I think right now, the sort of just feeling that I have is just, it's going to win international feature, supporting actress, and then best song for El Mal or either Mi Camino. But I think it's going to be El Mal. But that's my thinking behind the Emilia Perez takeover this season. But what is number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5? What are behind Emilia Perez? And remember, Best Picture is determined by the ballots, the preferential ballots. And if you get a lot of number 1s, you're basically going to win. But if it's completely mixed up, you're seeing a lot of number 1s, number 2s, number 3s for some of these films, then it's going to be a fight. Now, personally, the second film that I think could potentially win is The Brutalist, because it did also win Best Drama at the Golden Globes. Not so sure about it winning at the Critics' Choice or BAFTAs yet. That's determined, or to be determined. But right now, The Brutalist it had a really good showing at the Oscars, especially with having the nomination for Felicity Jones, who was vulnerable this season. There was a potential upset of her being snubbed, but she is at the Oscars, and I think with Guy Pearce, Adrian Brody, Felicity Jones, Brittany Corbett, Best Director nomination and Screenplay and Cinematography, it did really good, and it's one of the favorites to win. I'm rooting for it. Personally, for me, I think number 3 is still Anora. I know the Anora train has kind of like fallen off a little bit because of the Golden Globes event, but Anora just did win like the Critics Online circle. So you got to like take that into account. And also I do think Sean Baker has a chance to win Best Original Screenplay or even Best Director. It could go either way. There was a trend, or is a trend, of just splitting, the top 5 contending Best Picture movies to either one for either screenplay or director. So it would be a split thing of, either Sean Baker taking the original screenplay award and then Brady Corbett taking the director award, or one or the other. And then Best Picture would go to The Brutalist or Anora. But also Anatomy of a Fall just won original screenplay, and it was sort of like in the top 5 to win the Oscars if Oppenheimer didn't exist. But I think Anora has a solid path to win. It just really depends on whether or not it'll win the BAFTAs, Critics' Choice, or even SAGs. I'm sort of like leaning towards it going the other way around at the Critics' Choice. I think it could go to Anora and it could like shake up the race a little bit. But also I think Mikey Madison could take the SAG or like the BAFTA or even the Critics' Choice. It's one or the other. I don't know. I'm not sure. And then number 3, I honestly think it's either between A Complete Unknown or Conclave. I'm leaning towards A Complete Unknown being number 3 because it did pretty damn well with like its nominations. And like that Best Director nomination is like a big plus with like James Mangold. So you have to like take that into account. And then Conclave has a solid chance of winning Best Adapted Screenplay, although I think Nickel Boys should take it. But Conclave, it could actually pull an upset, and it could be like one of those things where it's kind of like Coda, not in like the comparison of like, oh, the little movie that could, but like the movie that could be the one all along. Because again, if you remember that race, Power of the Dog was doing pretty well. But then eventually it kind of like died down in terms of hype. And you can kind of tell like during that season that a lot of voters were just looking for like an alternative, something more, vibier or cleaner compared to like the nasty, dirty, grimy Power of the Dog. And Coda was a solid choice, but I would have chose something else. And I think Conclave kind of like fits that narrative a little bit. It's very pleasable. A Complete Unknown is also pleasable. Both of them are very like crowd pleasing. And then number 4, I think Wicked is also, another one that you should be looking out for. It did pretty solid with its nomination pool, but I think the hype has like died down, especially since a lot of people aren't like enthusiastic about the directing or like the editing, even though it did get Best Editing, or even just like some of the like the technical stuff. And what really hurts it is that it's a first part of a movie, so the second part's going to happen. It's premiering this year, so it's not too worried to pull the trigger on like the first Wicked movie. But I think the potential spoiler candidate is I'm Still Here, mainly because the extended voting period for the Oscars totally worked in its favor for I'm Still Here, and kind of just like to lay out a little bit of like the background behind this movie. I saw this back in September at TIFF. I liked it, had some problems with it. I'm going to be watching it again soon this weekend, and I'll have a better grasp of it now since I've seen it. But this has kind of like been like the dark horse candidate for a little bit, especially since Sony Pictures Classic had this movie together after its festival run, and they also had I'm Still Here, and they also had The Room Next Door and The Outrun, and those were other 2 films that were like contending for the Oscars, and both of them crashed. There was a moment where I was just like, I don't know if like The Room Next Door and like The Outrun are going to be like true contenders or win contenders. I think I'm Still Here might have a chance to steal its thunder. And Sony Pictures Classics made the right choice with campaigning hard for I'm Still Here, especially for Fernando Torres. Fernando Torres has a good like cause and like potential to like steal the Best Actress award from either Mikey Madison or Demi Moore. Like a really solid chance because of like the Golden Globe win. But keep an eye out on for I'm Still Here, especially the momentum now since the Golden Globes is done and the Critics' Choice, SAGs, and BAFTAs are going to happen. And I'm Still Here is not a part of those like ceremonies. So it could kind of like fall apart once we get to the Oscars, but who knows? A lot of crazy stuff has been happening for the past couple of weeks. Ups and downs. And then Nickel Boys, Dune Part 2, and then The Substance are just like all happy to be here, especially Nickel Boys. I'm very happy that it's like here. I thought I was just going to miss out, especially since the dark elephant in the room had the potential to steal this entire race, and it's called September 5. You can check out my video review for that. I have some problems with that movie, but I won't say too much about it here. But Nickel Boys getting in is just, it's so nice. I'm happy that it's here. It's one of the most experimental and like breathtaking films that you'll see in this category. I know people will say I'm Still Here has that same sentiment, and it does for some people, but Nickel Boys is like, that's fucking cinema, bro. That is cinema. But yeah, like Nickel Boys, The Substance would be really nice to just like have it win here. But I don't know, like it's a very kind of like nasty, divisive movie for those who don't have the stomach for body horror. And then Doom Part 2, it's another one where it's just like, it's really happy to be here, especially since it flopped hard with a lot of like the technical categories, especially Best Director. Like way back in March, we thought that like Denis Villeneuve was just like going to pack it up and like be that one like director that's just going to stay there for like the entire race. He's going to be nominated. And then you see what it came to as the season started and as it continues. It missing out the DGA award was the death sentence for Denis Villeneuve. I don't know if Messiah is going to do any good next time around, because it has a big chance of it kind of just like falling apart with the Best Director nomination and maybe even missing out Best Picture. But who knows? It really depends on like how Warner Brothers tries to campaign the next time around and also positions the movie. I want it to like be a part of like the fall winter season, because that's mostly where a lot of voters are paying attention to a lot of these films. I know it's a bias. It sucks. I hate it. I don't like the idea of just like paying attention to films that come out, you know, after September, but it is what it is, and it's what it's supposed to be and how it is nowadays. Sometimes movies break out from those months in fall, winter, instead of, you know, spring, with like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like that stayed in the conversation for a really long time. Oppenheimer, like once that movie came out, it was just like locked up and sealed. But Dune Part 2 just being here in the nomination for Best Picture is just, it's a miracle, and I'm glad it's here, but it ain't winning Best Picture in a society of just pure, you know, stan mentality. I would like Dune Part 2 to win, but it's not going to happen. It's Jover. It's down, bro. But yeah, I think that's like my consensus take on the Best Picture 10. As of right now, I hope you guys enjoy this video. I know it's going to be really crazy to like put this video out, because I know a lot of people are going to go crazy with my reactions to the Emilia Perez hate, but you know what? You got to do what you got to do, because I'm that person who wants to like lay stuff out thick and like let people have a discussion themselves, instead of going, oh, like it's fine, it's whatever. Nah, this shit is just, it's bothering me. And it shouldn't be bothering me. It shouldn't be bothering a lot of people who are like trying to like predict these wins for the Oscars. The part of, you know, this entire award season is supposed to be with like unity and kind of like passionate discussions about films that you like. And sure, like the Best Picture 10, it's not perfect. I'd rather have, you know, challengers here. I'd rather have Sing Sing in here also as well. But like, when I've been following like this race since the Cannes start, I kind of knew that Emilia Perez might disrupt the race as a whole, especially since going back to the Toronto Film Festival and then watching that movie and seeing like people's reactions behind it. It was actually like midly positive. A lot of people had the same grievances that I had with the film, but at the end of the day, people were respectful and they were nice about it. But now, talking about this movie, it's like, it's going in the trenches. It's like going to war. It's like, if you want to like talk positively about this film for like a slight, little small thing, people will just like come at you. And I don't like that. But yeah, I don't want to like spin my wheels. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm not going to be predicting the Critics' Choice. I will, react to the winners and kind of like go from there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take care. Peace out.